Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of Harry Fling Wrestling. I am your host, Harry Fling, and today we are going to be reviewing yet again another wrestling album, but not so much an album with the tracks for the entrance themes of the superstars themselves, but this is more so them attempting to create their own music and make music videos in the process. So what am I referring to? WWF Piledriver, the Wrestling Album 2. Also Piledriver, the home video. So this is a VHS. It's one of the rarest album finds you'll ever see in pro wrestling. Hulk Hogan with a hard hat on here. Only $19.95 suggested retail price. In stores, sold everywhere. Well, highly unlikely. Wasn't very popular. Was known for its corniness and campiness. This is just the back, in case you want to see what it's like. You can pause it if you want to read all the details, but I'm not going to get into that. Conceptually, at first glance, this doesn't look very exciting. Am I going to watch Hulk Hogan do some construction on a building? He's already bad enough as a wrestler, so I don't want to see him be a construction worker. So we can certainly do without that. But when you pop it in and you watch how cheesy and corny the acting is, and then the singing from the wrestlers, who are for the most part pretty off-key, yeah, it doesn't rank among the best as far as wrestling albums are concerned. But it's cheesy and corny in its own lovable way, so I guess there's something to be said for that. You know, ludicrously funny, hilariously ludicrous, ludicrously hilarious. Well, whatever floats your boat. In any event, my brother originally had this VHS, and then I don't know what happened to it, so then I ended up getting this one from eBay. Actually, it was a birthday gift. He got it from eBay to give to me for my birthday a few years back. So we had the VHS music video growing up, and he got it from a friend. You know, she knew we liked wrestling and gave it to us, and not knowing it was music videos, obviously, and then I was the one that probably liked Piledriver more than him. This was actually released on September 21st, 1987 on tape, cassette, and VHS. It was never on CD. However, it was released on vinyl, too. It was like a 45, I believe. And yeah, I guess in the late 80s we were still playing records. Thought by that point we'd moved on to tapes and CDs perhaps, but what do I know? Now the VHS had a host. It was a producer by the name of George Stevens, outside of Piledriver. I have no idea who he is, and tried to look him up on IMDb and didn't get very many results, to say the least. He would introduce each and every music video. Now there's 10 tracks altogether, but only 8 of them had music videos made for them. So what I'm going to do is talk about each track, give you a little review of what I think of it personally, and it's also the general public to a lesser extent. And then we'll go in order of the VHS, and then the last 2 tracks are going to be the ones that did not have music videos made for them. So actually the track listing is much different if you're just talking about the album itself. I'm just going to go in the order of this video right here. So, actually I'm going to put it up here. This will be a good display. Alright, got a different angle going on. So when you first pop this in and you're looking for the first song, it's going to be the title track, Piledriver. Now, Piledriver was sung by none other than Koko B. Ware, WWE Hall of Famer, class of 2009. It was one of his biggest claim to fames in the business, other than, you know, having a not so great winning streak, losing streak to be exact. And yeah, he was a legend in his own right, charismatic, especially with the younger audiences, with the flamboyant colors and the strong vibrato voice. He was a great singer, actually. I think he was a gospel singer outside of wrestling. So, yeah, it takes place, the music video, on a construction site, as you can see, and Hulk's in it, and, you know, every other babyface and heel on the roster at the time, even Vince McMahon himself playing the goody two-shoes announcer. Sometimes love, sometimes love sounds like a fight, it sounds like an argument, it sounds just right to Piledriver, do-do-do-do. That's your chorus refrain for what it's worth, and yeah, I guess I never associated Piledriver sounding like love, an argument, in a loving relationship, so nonetheless, got some interesting tie-ins there, Coco. But it's a pretty good track, and I think it was a better suited track for the Birdman. You know, he was around at a time when guys who were, you know, his size weren't considered standard operating procedure. And in a sense, he's 5'8", weighs only 228 pounds, so he's shorter than your average wrestler, not as strong, probably not as big either. But man, he was sure quick. But he also wasn't in the greatest shape himself. He was a bit bulky and stocky. but he more than made up for it with his aerial offense. Ugh, sorry, a little hair there. And did a lot of drop kicks at the top rope, some clotheslines, what have you. The Brainbuster was a sick finisher when he was able to use it, not on the losing end of another opponent. And I just felt over time they probably kidified the hell out of him by giving him that theme song, Do the Bird, which is definitely a more kid-friendly song, not saying that this one isn't. Do, 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 or it goes, bird, bird, bird. Yeah, that's not the one we're talking about on Piledriver, but yeah, this was a powerful song, and, hook, line, and sinker, you buy into the Birdman here. So, our next track is an eponymous one, because at the time they used the wrestler who sang this song as the title track. This is the Honky Tonk Man, at the time doing the Honky Tonk Man. If you listen to Anthology, which this song was re-released on, it's actually entitled Cool, Cocky, Bad. And man, this is probably the best track, one of the best tracks on the album. And Honky did in fact use this as an entrance theme through the majority of his career, save for when he was with Greg Valentine in Rhythm and Blues. They used a hunka 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 honky love or something like that. Honky had a different theme when he first started. It was called That's All Right, Honky Tonk Mama, and he used it at WrestleMania 3 against Jake Roberts. I probably talked about that in my rewriting WrestleMania 3 video, so I'm going to stop there. But the Honky Tonk Man's cool, cocky, and bad. He's really going full throttle with the whole Elvis impersonator shtick, and that's his whole gimmick, by the way. And, the music video is great. The drummer has an actual drum that says Elvis Who written on it. It's hilarious. And then he's got his backup singers. I'm the Honky Tonk Man. He's the Honky Tonk Man. I can't sing like them, but you get the gist of it. And, it's like a 1950 sock hop come back to life in 1987. So it might have been done. Yes, this was definitely done on a low budget. All of Piledriver here, the music video part. The music itself is pretty top quality, sound-wise. But yeah, and then at the end of it, they have, they show the backdrop of Hollywood. Instead of Hollywood, it's Honkywood. And yeah, of course, he's self-righteous. He's going to sing all about himself. He's the Honky Tonk Man. What do you expect? Next is probably my favorite track, and this is by the legendary Rick Derringer, who I believe passed away last year. The late, great Rick Derringer. He was a one-hit wonder, and this song was probably the only... the next song we're going to get to is also Derringer, but we're going to talk about this one first. He did Hulk Hogan's Real American, which was on the wrestling album that was used originally for... It was intended for the U.S. Express originally, and then somehow that changed and got shifted over to Hulk Hogan. But in any event, Demolition used their theme song called Demolition, another one just like Honky Tonk Man, as their actual theme for a good part of their career up until they added a third member in the form of Crush. Now, this is actually called, I think, Walking Disaster. Walking Disaster would be a better fitting name if you don't want to just use the tag team name eponymously. Here comes the axe, and here comes the smasher, the demolition, walking disaster. Damn, the demolition. Damn, how to say, act of attrition. Something, I forget the lyrics, I don't have it in front of me, but I'm not going to bother to look it up. It's neither here nor there, but this is such a great theme, so befitting of Demolition themselves. And man, from the minute they walk down that aisle, with their razor-sharp ring gear, you have the spikes and the black leather. You could argue it looks very dominatrix-ish, but I don't think that's what they were going for. And, Derringer doing the vocals, he was perfect fit for that. And then the music video itself had a lot of buildings being destroyed, fires going off, guns, bombs, everything, destruction. Mass destruction all over the place, and it was perfect for that gimmick. It's not an ideal world, if you ask me, but, they're talking about Demolition. It's got the whole Armageddon theme put together in a video. So that's great stuff, actually. Kudos on the creativity. Now, we have another Derringer track on here, and Derringer was a one-hit wonder, as I was saying a little while ago, and this was the song that brought him to the dance floor back in the 70s, and then Mean Gene Okerlund joined him on this track to recreate it in 1987. What am I talking about? Rock and Roll Hoochie Coo. This is probably my favorite video because it's the corniest one. There's a lot of cheesy acting and takes place in a classroom. in a high school in a music appreciation class, and the teacher's name is Miss Brooks. Miss Brooks wears, this like school Mormon missionary looking outfit. Her hair's tied back, got the big Coke bottle glasses. She starts her class off with the hickory stick. Attention class, attention. We are about to be joined by Professor Dexter Peabody. Mean Gene comes in as playing Mr. Peabody, the guest professor, guest lecturer. Hi, Miss Brooks, good to see you. Hi, class. And then the principal, for some reason, gets wind of this, is able to pick up the audio from his PA intercom in his office. While this class is going on, he interrupts. Miss Brooks, I assume your music appreciation class is about to begin? She says yes. Turn off the lights. Mr. Peabody, what's up? He transforms from wearing a traditional tuxedo to a complete rock and roll outfit, like something from Styx or whatever. He's like pink tights and leopard print ripped shirt, bandana, blue wig, and like these Bret Hart looking sunglasses, even though those weren't made yet at the time. And then he bursts into rock and roll hoochie coo, and Miss Brooks is frustrated as ever, furious with what's going on. She tries to use that hickory stick to get everybody to sit down. That's not going to work. And eventually she gives in. She starts dancing a little bit, but before you know it, she's really on the desk, takes off her vest, and takes out the hair bun and the glasses, and the whole shtick. It's like some cheesy 1980s John Hughes high school dramedy, whatever. And Principal Winthrop eventually hears what's going on through the audio coming from his office, walks down to the classroom after the song ends. Miss Brooks, what is the meaning of this? All the kids sit down. She's like, shit. My boss walks in. Then he looks over at Mr. Peabody, who by that point is back in a tuxedo. Mr. Peabody! And Mean Gene just winks at the camera. And end. So, great stuff. It actually had me laughing. Even, I actually rediscovered this video. We're going back to like the summer of 2000. It's just a very random story. I was 11 years old. It was like the summer of 2000, and my brother had every conceivable pay-per-view up to that point, recorded. We were big on collecting for bootleg, what we saw originally. And not sure where a lot of those tapes are now, but Piledriver was amongst that. And there were some Coliseum videos spliced in, such as this one. So I picked it out and just played it. I just remember falling in love with the whole rock and roll hoochie coo segment, and what can I say? Great stuff in the weirdest roundabout sort of way. So we move on now to a soft rock ballad, probably the worst track amongst many viewers. I don't think it's the worst, but it's certainly not threatening. I'm talking about Girls in Cars, performed by Robbie Dupree, an 80s soft rock artist, joined by the tag team that it was written for, Strike Force, Rick Martel and Tito Santana, who were about to be World Tag Team Champions around that point in time, particularly. So, Girls in Cars, somebody had an obsession with women behind the wheel of a car and driving it, and decided to write a song, I guess. And the vocals are okay. They're not bad. As a musician, it's something I can appreciate. They pass you on the road and you smile and you have to look twice. Da-da-da, da-da-da. And you wonder to yourself, could a woman really look that nice? Da-da-do, da-da-do. Girls in Cars. Damn. Love the guitar riff. Girls in Cars. Girls in Cars. Now, in the arena, whenever you're watching them on TV and actually wrestling, they didn't use the track I just sang a second ago. They used an instrumental track of Girls in Cars, and Jim Johnston actually remixed it. So, it was just an instrumental track, basically. Da-da-da-da, really sped up a little bit. You can listen to it on YouTube. Just type in Strike Force in the instrumental theme. And Jim Johnston actually had a little cameo on Piledriver, talking about remixing Rick and Tito's entrance music, and that he in fact did, though we don't get to hear the remix on here, just the original version. And it's really only okay. It's not the greatest one, and it's not something a lot of people will look back on fondly and say, great tag team. Well, they were, in a sense, they were former World Tag Team Champions, but their shelf life, it leaves a lot to be desired. From the summer of 87 to the spring of 89, WWF, I think, couldn't get a hold of the Rockers as soon as they wanted to, so that's why they put these two pretty boys, these two boy toys together in the form of Rick Martel and Tito Santana. And thus we had Strike Force, because they strike with force, apparently, Santana said in a promo one time. So once we had the Rockers, I guess WWF decided to pull the plug on this team, and the model was born. And then Santana, he's a different story. But yeah, certainly an interesting beginning, to say the least, that notwithstanding. Next we go to Jive Soul Bro, sung by the Doctor of Style, an ordained minister in real life, Slick. Oh, sorry, I got caught in the back of my mouth. 1 second. Man, where do I begin with this one? Slick was a multi-manager, much like a Bobby Heenan or Jimmy Hart. He had multiple clientele over the year, and sometimes would make separate appearances throughout the evening, and depending on what matches they were in on a pay-per-view or Superstars or Wrestling Challenge or Primetime Wrestling, what have you. Jive Soul Bro. Yeah, this is kind of the hip-hop, the rap version, the rap song on the album, the only one actually. And it's more, it's got a jive beat to it, hence the title of the song, and it's a little R&B-ish, and it just talks about Slick having bad luck with the ladies, basically. But I don't know, it makes it sound like in the song that he's not, he's kind of a, I don't know, not a dirty old man, but what's the word I'm looking for? He's kind of he's not a guy that you could trust, as far as you could throw him. Let me put it to you that way. So in the song, and rightfully so, and Slick definitely came across that way as a manager too. So I'm sure he was a nice guy in real life, but the Doctor of Style, he was no good as far as, we're talking good guys and bad guys are concerned. And this was actually pretty good, but the only person that benefited, I think, from this theme song was Akeem. Not when he was the one-man gang. One-man gang, and that was a better gimmick, by the way. He didn't have any entrance music. He was just a tough big guy from Chicago. Ooh, like that. And then Akeem, they pretended he was from Africa and had up all this, traditional garb, I guess, and had him start doing some, hip-hop, R&B type moves like this, going to the song, "You're a jive soul bro, a jive soul bro." And the fans actually were endeared by it, that they were chanting along, they were kind of cheering him a little bit. And he's supposed to be the number 2 tag team bad guy, in the business. He's with the big boss man. So Akeem, the whole gimmick didn't make sense to change it, but, made sense, I guess, if you wanted to get this song over. So that's all I've got to say on that one. Sorry, I was just trying to collect my thoughts and think, how do I best describe Jive Soul Bro in the most positive way? Next, we get Vince McMahon himself singing Stand Back. And if you became a fan of wrestling a lot later than 1987, like I did, next decade, you'll appreciate it because it's endearing in the sense that there's wrestlers that went back to make fun of Vince for singing it. And Vince, I don't think, was so happy about this performance. He always sounds embarrassed about it, even if it was a candid interview. And it was so interesting just because, remember, Jericho and Benoit made fun of him with it, and DX, Shawn and Hunter did. And, it's written for Andre the Giant, actually, but Vince was the singer. And Vince actually had a good singing voice, till he became Mr. McMahon, started screaming, "You're fired" on screen every week, and talking like this, Austin. But back then, when he was the announcer, he was doing stuff like this. Certainly notwithstanding that, you have to wonder, ladies and gentlemen, will he be in action tonight? And he had a good sing voice. "I got so tired of free advice, I finally had to say, stand back, stand back, stand back." And he performed it at the 1987 Slammy Awards. It's perfect for Andre if he were to have a theme song, but this would be good for a music video. Actually, not a theme song. You'd have to get him something that was used in the video games, like 2K15 or Legends of WrestleMania, something like that. But, Vince singing it, brings a whole comedic element that I guess was otherwise unnecessary for the song. And I'm just going to keep laughing about it as we're going on. 1987 Slammy Awards. Sorry, I lost my train of thought for a second. I'm trying to get it back. So, Stand Back was not the only song sung that night, because they were vying. All the songs, 5 of these songs, I think, from Piledriver, were up for contention as far as best musical performance of the evening, which we never found out because Sika ate the results at the end of the night. So he swallowed the envelope. We had Piledriver, Coco Beware performed that one. Honky Tonk Man did Cool, Cocky, and Bad. Vince McMahon did Stand Back. Jimmy Hart actually performed Girls in Cars. I guess Robbie Dupree wasn't available that night, and Jimmy Hart sang it much better. And then all the superstars gathered on stage at the end for a rendition of If You Only Knew, which we're going to get to next. If You Only Knew, it's a montage of the current 1987 roster of the World Wrestling Federation, everyone from Hulk Hogan to Barry Horowitz. And, man, what can I say about this one? This is great in a sense. You got everyone to sing. It's like a big choral ensemble, you know. Reminds me of a chorus line without the dancing. Or Michael Jackson, what did he do back in the mid-'80s? We Are the World. It was for Haiti or something. Was that the 80s or 90s? I always forget. Forgive me if I get the decade wrong for the King of Pop. But when they had all those singers jumping in with We Are the World, this is kind of what If You Only Knew reminded me of, except it was a very aggressive tone because, you know, it's coming from wrestlers. I've heard a lot of vile chatter. That really doesn't matter to me. A lot of you guys want to see me in agony. If you only knew, what I'm gonna do to you. You'd be running out of here as fast as 2 feet could carry you. Your destiny belongs to me. If you only knew, boo. Oh man, it's actually a very catchy tune, and it was nice to see them actually perform it at the end. And I sing in a choir, and it'd be kind of funny if I suggest this to my choir director, who probably has no clue about this song, but it'd be too aggressive though for a show because it wouldn't give the right impression. We're supposed to be all loving, and oh man, had to have a good laugh at that. But good stuff from everybody, even if they couldn't sing or they had no musical talent. The wrestlers, you just jump right in, scream and shout. I don't care. It's all good fun. It's a free for all, really. All right, so those are all the songs that were made for music videos. The last 2 tracks, I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on. There were no music videos made for it. Second to last one here is Crank It Up, sung by Jimmy Hart, which was actually used for the Young Stallions, though there was a feud because Jimmy Hart was a heel manager and the Young Stallions were a face tag team. That was Paul Roma and Jim Powers, the worst horseman, by the way, Paul Roma. I don't know whatever became of Jim Powers, but the Young Stallions had got the right to use that song some way, somehow. Jimmy Hart was the heel manager for the Hart Foundation. They had a feud. The Stallions feuded with the Harts over the rights to use Crank It Up as their theme song. The Harts didn't even have Road to Destruction yet with dur, 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 not until 1989. And the funny thing about that is it's a great song, and it's just a party song, really. Crank it up, throw it out, rip it up, let's party now. Crank it up, throw it out, rip it up, let's party now. Ooh, great beat and everything. This actually would have benefited from a music video. When I was a kid and I wanted to be a wrestler when I grew up, I said when I was like 8 or 9 years old, I wanted this to be my theme song. I dreamt I was in the main event of WrestleMania 1 with Crank It Up as my theme song. That's how kick-ass it was. My brother had the WAV file on his computer. Yes, we were still using WAVs in 97, 98, whatever, 99. And the last song here is one, it's just a soft ballad, which would not be good for a theme song. Waking Up Alone, performed by Hillbilly Jim and Gertrude Vachon, who we best know as the late, great Luna Vachon. Waking Up Alone. It reminds me so much of, God, there's this soft, it reminds me of Eternal Flame by the Bangles, which was really, the Bangles, released in the late 1980s. Great 80s hit. So many great female rock and roll singers and bands at the time, Bangles being one of them. Close your eyes, give me your hand, darling. Waking Up Alone reminded me so much of that. And I don't know why Luna Vachon was involved in this track, or she probably wasn't even well known yet, or hadn't even debuted as Luna. I couldn't tell you. Sorry. But Hillbilly Jim, how did he sneak onto this album? Beats me. Sometime, by God, I'm tough. I'm singing the chorus here. Do do do. Lord knows I'm big and strong, but nothing hurts me half as much as waking up alone. And then they go off and they sing into the sunset, and yay, it's a happy ending, and that's all that needs to be said. So I remember being able to download all 10 tracks I just talked about on Napster 25 years ago. It was like the spring of 2001. I got so lucky. Lucky is perfectly underscored word here. It's a lucky find, is you could not find Piledriver in stores anywhere. I remember asking like Barnes & Noble and Sam Goody in the music sections. WWF Piledriver? What's that? No one had heard of it, even if they watched wrestling in the 80s. That's how forgettable this was, and this was an early induction to WrestleCrap.com. Now, this VHS, what keeps falling out is the video cover here, and I'm not going to bother to tape it. I don't want to screw up my VHS player, which is probably old as shit. This is what it looks like inside. I already showed you the cover earlier. So anyways, let me know your thoughts about Piledriver. I'm curious to see if anybody liked it half as much as I liked it at one point in time. Nowadays, I'm, sort of indifferent to it. But again, this has been another great edition of Harry Fling Wrestling. I'm your host, Harry Fling, and until next time, everybody, bye-bye.